else you do for work is you do a lot of training on things like Microsoft, Excel, these sort of complex for some people systems, and you're delivering workshops and so forth on how to use these effectively. So my key question would be for you around that. How do you go about making complex information simple and easy to understand and digest for your audience?
Yeah, it's strange you should ask that. Yesterday, I delivered a Microsoft Excel introduction course. Now, for me, a Microsoft introduction course, it's one of the hardest things I will ever deliver because I know the material inside out. It's stuff that I do without even thinking about it. But my delegates, 2 of them had never used Excel, and 3 or 4 of them had only used it a couple of times when they were back in uni and had completely forgotten all about it. And I have to remember that what is dreadfully simple for me is actually quite complex for other people. And I have to rail against my own instincts, and I have to break it down into tiny chunks. And then I love delivering over Teams because I get people to wear out their thumbs up button because it's constantly give me a thumbs up if you've understood that. Right. Give me a thumbs up if you've understood that. And it's really hard. I had 16 people in the course and try to count all the thumbs and make sure that I didn't miss somebody. It's quite hard. Yeah. But you've got to keep it simple and you've got to keep checking in. Did you understand? Will you be able to do this on your own later? And only then do you move up to the next level. And you just build it in levels and levels and levels, but always in small chunks of increasing complexity, but checking in. Did you understand that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love, what you were describing there initially was the curse of knowledge, because you know so much. And we see this all the time, especially in the corporate world, because someone knows so much about their topic, they make the assumption that the audience is on their level of knowledge about the topic. And that's when people get confused. That's when people turn off. That's when things go terribly wrong. But what you're suggesting to do is to actually put yourself in the audience's shoes, assuming they have little knowledge. Dumb it right down to that beginner level stuff. I have to do it all the time with my courses as well in public speaking. The body language stuff seems quite simplistic and obvious to me, but you'd be surprised how many people have turned to me and said, wow, I never realized if I just open my hands, that makes me seem more friendlier than having a closed fist. You don't know what your audience knows and what they don't know necessarily. So don't make assumptions. Ask.
It's so important, and that's a great example that you gave there, because these closed gestures that lock us away from our audience, and make us seem unfriendly. You and I take our gestures for granted, and I remember when I first stood up and started doing training, I had quite a lot of closed off gestures because it was new to me. And it was a little bit terrifying. And I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anybody to say, try doing this or try doing that. And it just eventually, I got it. And then I was amazed when I started to get a little bit of more formal training in public speaking and heard people talking about open gestures and things like that. And I'm going, all right, is that what I'm doing? But now I come from the same place as you. It's you have to remember that your audience probably know 5% of what you know, if that. And to go right back to those basic levels, it's really hard. And it's really hard to keep that up on a 6-hour course that you've got to, because people will progress during those 6 hours. And then you think, oh, they're getting this, and there's a danger you can jump and take a leap and leave them behind. And then you have to backtrack and do some damage repair.
Yeah. I wanted to circle back to something you said there about building it up slowly as well. One of the things we commonly see in the world of presenting anyway is someone throws a slide on screen and they basically put everything they could possibly think of on that slide. You know, it's like a game of Where's Wally, that slide. Where is the important piece of information? I have no idea. I never will. So when you're talking about building things up, how do you go about creating those steps for understanding for the audience? Have you got a process?
To some extent, yes. Let's say an Excel introduction course. At the end of that course, I will want people to be able to, and I set out those learning expectations. So one of the things I will expect somebody to be able to input a set of headings, input some data, add that data up, and calculate the VAT on it, for example.
Yes.
So I'll then say, right, how many chunks are there to this process? And I will break it down, and I'll go, so I've got input text, I've got input numbers, I've got create calculations, and then I've got create a slightly more complicated calculation. So I break it down into those segments, and then I look at each segment and say, what else does somebody that's doing this need to know? And all of a sudden, you know, you want to type the word Monday into a cell, and you think, okay, they're going to need to know, what do you do for Monday, right? Because a lot of people can't spell Wednesday, me included in some days, because it's a terrible word. Something you'll definitely appreciate.
Absolutely. All the days of the week for me. But anyway, carry on.
And I think, and they need to know how to make it bigger if they want, and will they want to make it a different color? So you have to analyze every step in great detail, and around that build and say, right, these are all the things to know about this. And then we'll start with the simple. We'll repeat the simple several times. Then we'll go to the next step. We'll repeat that several times. And then we've got that. We'll change horses and we'll go to numbers. And then we're like, okay, they'll need to know how many decimal points it wants. Do they want a pound sign in front of it? And then again, simple, simple, simple. Next step up, next step up. We finish that. Now we'll move to the calculations. So it's about breaking stuff into chunks, then looking at each chunk and breaking it down even further.
I love that. Basically decide what you want the group to gain from the end of the lesson, and then kind of work your way back, re-engineer it. What are the steps to getting to that thing? What are the 5 steps? And that's how you go about it. That's a perfect way to make the complex simple.